for conversations. We have Alex Offer returning to us. Glad to have you back on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, so it's been a little while, and the tech, as we all know, the tech industry is very turbulent. I was laid off about a year ago, and recently you were affected by the tech layoffs, correct?
Yep. Yeah. In September, officially was notified that I was being laid off. Today is my official last day of employment.
Oh man, yeah. How do you feel?
I feel good. It was a little bit of a bummer. Was somewhat unexpected. Being in HR leadership, I could see the writing on the wall a little bit, but I didn't have any indication that this was officially coming through. So it did catch me off guard. Was a little bit of a bummer, but I am also not my career. I'm not my job. It's just my job is an agreement between me and an employer to do this work for this period of time at this pay rate. So I don't take it personally, and I have no hard feelings. I've kept in touch with my old bosses, and really, it's nothing personal. It's kind of just business, and I accept it as it is.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, it's amazing that you have such a positive attitude. But yeah, realistically, we aren't our companies unless we own the company. We can't control when we're going to be let go.
Yeah, and y'all have kind of touched on this in some of your previous episodes, but the concept of human resources. What is your loyalty to a company? What is a company's loyalty to you? Are you a unique individual person, or are you just a cog in the machine? I respect people, and I love my coworkers on a personal level, but I understand that I'm kind of just a cog in the machine, and there's there's a lot of reasons why they might want me there or not want me there, and it has nothing to do with the quality of my work or the quality of me as a person or anything at all like that.
In other words, it's not personal.
Yeah, it's just business. And you know what? It's unfortunately, I definitely don't envy the managers and the senior leaders who make the decision, have to deliver the news to employees. I was one of, I think, around 600 or 650 employees that were cut back in September. And it's just got to be the most grueling thing. I've been in situations where I've had to end people's employment as a manager. And that can be really personally draining and upsetting to be the one who delivers that news. So really, I think my old managers are good people. I've kept in touch, and I don't think that they were trying to pick out the worst personal people on the team or anything like that. I think it was duplication of business roles. I mean, with the acquisition of Activision Blizzard King by Microsoft, there's a lot of business factors that would influence who needs to be kept on staff and who unfortunately does not need to be kept on staff.
And it's just like the numbers.
That's what right. If I was one of 600 plus. If my manager came through and said, "Alex, you suck," here's a list of reasons why you suck, we'd be having a much different conversation. But in the conversation where I was being laid off, the news breaks. Microsoft's a very public company, so the news breaks. My friends are texting me saying, "Hey, are you going to be laid off today?" And I'm thinking probably, which is what I thought last time. And then there's text message threads going around. Hey, did you hear? Did you? Are you? So people are calling each other, and it's just
wow.
It's kind of the way it goes. I mean, there's no way that you could be laid off and feel amazing about it, but you could either be completely devastated or you could take it in stride, and I'm choosing to take it in stride.
That's awesome.
That's an amazing point that you made earlier about the fact that you're not your job, because a lot of people, they completely wrap themselves up in work. Their whole identity is their company, and once they're let go, they're devastated. So it's always important to have an identity outside of your job, and you always have to be prepared to move on to another company if necessary.
Yeah, that's true. And, especially and I don't mean to, kind of talk crap about anybody or any industry, but I think that in the tech industry, there can be a lot of big egos and kind of an ego associated with it, especially if, you're working for a prestigious company, it's very public, you make a lot of money, you're in this senior level role. And a lot of people do tie their identity to their jobs. I am a blank. I work for blank, therefore I am blank. And it's it's just kind of nice to get a little bit of a break from that. And yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling on about that, but there's pros and cons. But yeah, we got to just separate ourselves from our employers. We'll probably all go through different jobs, different careers, do different kind of things. I mean, I personally, my first job, honestly, my first job after college, I was doing door-to-door fundraising for a political group. What I'm doing today, so much different than that. So careers, jobs, everything just evolves, and there's no sense in attaching yourself to being one thing as your whole pillar.
Right.
So, are you planning on staying in HR and in the tech industry, or are you potentially using this as an opportunity to pivot into something else?
I would love to stay in HR, in tech. That's an industry that I feel pretty comfortable with. I like the nature of the work and the subject matter, the kind of things that we do. So, I mean, even if I could just do the same exact job I was doing at a different company, I'd be pretty happy about that. I'm open to different things. Another thing that's kind of a little bit odd about my background is I've come up through recruiting. I've done basically every job within recruiting. So recruiting coordination, managing teams of TA employees. I've done some heavy consulting on the technical side, so implementing applicant tracking systems. I know y'all have talked a little bit about the influence of AI in hiring. And so I've seen a little bit of that from behind the scenes, implementing those AI tools. I've done project management, program management within talent attraction and within HR. So my next role, I mean, is it going to be more of a management senior level position, or is it going to be more of an individual contributor consultation type role?
Right.
I'm a little flexible. I'm a little bit open to it. What type of company? I'm casting a pretty wide net. So I mean, oddly enough, I would love to stay in the video game industry, but I'm not dead set on it. I even applied for a job at Sony, and then they had a layoff days later. So I'm honestly, as much as I love video games, I don't love the volatility of video game industry. And tech is always a pretty volatile industry, but the gaming industry in particular is incredibly volatile right now. And I might let it cool off. come back next year and see if there's opportunities in the gaming industry. But I'm okay going a different direction there.
No, you sound really positive about it, man. I think it's like important to make that distinction that, like you're saying, you are not your job. You are much more than that. You are worthwhile, on your own merit.
Yeah, and there's like not to get too personal or anything, but I've been in some pretty dark situations in my personal life, and just nothing employment related can touch the personal things that I've kind of experienced and dealt with. And so this kind of stuff just comes and goes. And ultimately, it's just an opportunity to focus on being thankful that I'm here, my wife, my son, my dog. Just being thankful that we're here. I have the opportunity to take what I've learned, take another shot. Maybe I have to be humbled a little bit, take a lower pay rate or something like that, a lower level job, but maybe a higher level job, maybe a higher pay rate. I have that opportunity. So I am just so thankful that I am here today, able to have the potential to do something amazing. And I can't feel too bad about that. I could feel bummed. I mean, definitely, I was pretty bummed out, got into a little bit of a funk about just kind of a bad mood for a little while. But the bigger overarching picture is just gratitude. I'm just so thankful that I am here today and I have the potential to still do something amazing, and getting laid off doesn't interrupt that potential. It just changes what it might look like.
That's awesome.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like this is just me personally. God has to take you out of one situation and put you in, it might be temporarily a lower situation for you to eventually grow to where you need to grow. So, for example, I might have gotten laid off from this job, but this caused me to go to this other company where now I'm really striving. So, yeah, it could just be a temporary setback that ultimately is for the greater good.
Yeah, on that note, I mean, something that's always kind of carried me through the tough times is to think there is nothing that could be thrown at me that I can't handle. And maybe I don't know how to handle it now, and I need to learn how to handle it. I need to do things differently, change my definition of what handling it means. But I have so much belief that there is nothing that can be thrown at me that I can't handle. Now, of course, it might not be a pretty situation. There might be some pretty tough things thrown at me, but nothing can defeat me. And I hope that more people feel that way. I think a lot of people seem to have these self-defeating beliefs that they can't do something. I got laid off, therefore I'm not a good HR leader. I'm not a good tech employee. This is a sign that Microsoft is telling me, Alex, you suck. I think that's a very common way for people to think, but
Right.
I really think people have more potential and more belief, or if they had more belief in themselves, they could do more than they're allowing themselves.
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of people, they get really bogged down and, they identify too much with their role, with their job. And it's like, you got to take that extra step back and get that objectivity about the whole situation. Like, I'm a spiritual being having a physical, experience, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And also find ways to inspire yourself, but like find ways that you can look at yourself for inspiration. So for example, I'm 35. No, I don't even know how old I am. I'm 36. I was just,
Yeah.
Technically today is my last day working at Microsoft. When I was a kid, I remember looking in science books about, Microsoft building software and computers. And I was like, man, that is my dream to work at Microsoft someday. And I did that. And if I rewound to like 10 years ago and I'm in a career funk and I don't know what I'm going to do, I'm just exited a sales role and it didn't go very well, and I'm in such turmoil, I got from there to here. So it just makes me wonder, okay, 10 years from now, I'm in a little bit of a low point. I'm about to be unemployed, but what could happen in the next 10 years? I mean, it could be, I could be CEO of Microsoft. I mean, probably not. Realistically, I don't know that I want to do that job, but who knows?
Yeah.
I have a lottery ticket in my hand that I just don't know how much the jackpot is going to pay off. Not a literal lottery ticket, but my life is a lottery ticket, and everyone's life is their own lottery ticket.
Absolutely. So, do you have any strategies that you're utilizing to maximize your job search?
Yeah, definitely networking, leveraging the network as much as possible. What's kind of always worked for me in the past, and nowadays I'm still taking much of the same approach, but it's harder because it's a harder job market. But essentially, look for jobs that are posted. I like using LinkedIn as a tool. Look for jobs that are posted, people that I know at those companies, reach out to those people, chat with them, ask for referrals, ask for advice on, I'm a candidate for this role. Do you recommend I do anything? And that's really always worked for me. So I was really into podcasts, things like Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins, things like that, and picked up a lot of strategies and kind of tips from those. And one of the big strategies I got was, and I forget, I want to say this is Tim Ferriss. Don't quote me on this, but just in general, it was like, if you want money, ask for advice. And if you want advice, ask for money. And I think he might have been talking about that in terms of venture capital and business investments. But I have found that to be very helpful. People, especially if it's people that I haven't talked to in a little while, they don't want to just out of context have me asking them for favors. So a lot of times I prefer just to ask, hey, do you have any advice for me? I'm a candidate for your company. Do you have any advice for an applicant? And a lot of times people will say, hey, you know what? Let me submit you as a referral. Let me go talk to the recruiter. Sometimes they ignore my messages, and that's fine. But so I like to follow the format, see where people are working that I know, reach out to them with that, just starting that conversation. Another thing too is that, so earlier in my career, I was a recruiting agency, technical recruiter. So I like to follow the process that they used for recruiting, but in reverse. So one of the approaches that they use is that to target passive candidates, you have a whole list of people that you talk to every month, whether you're hiring, they're looking. You just have this group of people that you constantly are talking to, checking in. You have your people that you talk to every month. You got your people, their contract's not up for 6 more months, so you just keep in touch. Other people, when their contract's going to end, so you start those more detailed conversations. So I try to do that basically in reverse. I don't have a specific list, but if I've reached out to you recently, you're you're on the top of my mind. Essentially, people that I've worked with that I've built somewhat of a connection with, I see them as successful people. I see them as people that I want to be associated with. We could just consider them under the umbrella of my peers, my network. And when I am employed, when I'm unemployed, I just constantly keep the networking going. So I see somebody on the list gets a new job, I send them a message and say, hey, good luck. Or they post a comment on LinkedIn, oh, I got a new certification for PMP. Give it the thumbs up. Somebody says, I'm starting this new side business. Can anybody help me by reposting? I repost it. And and I'll say, hey, good job, good luck. That kind of thing, those little things, just they're on the top of my mind. I want to stay on the top of their mind because they're successful key people in their world and their industry. And that, might have a little bit of a head start because it's all within this world of talent attraction HR, but it's no different than if you're a software engineer. You want to stay in touch with your old managers, the principal level engineers who were ahead of you in their careers. Those are people that are going to help open doors for you. And then likewise, who's the next generation? Who's the entry-level employee that's really showing promise? Keep in touch with those people as well. So it's not just about what can I do, who can I find to give me a handout, but what do I have to offer? And just keep that, that cycle going. People helping me, I'm asking for help, I'm giving help, I'm reaching out to other people. And this whole process kind of just works on itself. And it's not just people that you work with. I've done, probably the most successful networking experience I have ever had is really, I used to volunteer with a youth group, and networking with the other adults who were advisors and chaperones for the youth group. That opened up more career doors for me earlier in my career than I could have imagined. So yeah, really just the networking, just just keep the wheels turning, keep your head in the game.
Yeah, no, like you're saying, like engaging your network, liking posts, reposting posts, telling someone, that just got a certification, okay, congrats, Bob, or whatever. Like, it may seem trivial and it may seem like minute and minor, but I think these small touches go a long way and potentially let you in the side door at a company. Because you got, Billy Ray, whatever, him, he works at Microsoft. Okay, he's going to get you in through the side door.
Exactly. And that's, just for example, that is how I ended up at Blizzard. One of my previous managers from when I worked at Indeed.com, they got a job working at Blizzard. I reached out to them, congratulated them on their job. We kind of stayed in touch a little bit after I had left the company. And so a couple of years had gone by. We just messaged, maybe once every 8 months, once a year, that kind of thing. And then I found myself looking for a new job. I saw the job at Blizzard. I applied for it, and then I continued talking. It was one of my old managers, and actually two of my old managers, and they personally went to the hiring manager and essentially said, "Hey, look, I worked with Alex before. He's good. He applied. We gotta consider him." And that's kind of how it worked. I knew they were having trouble filling the role, finding the right candidate, and sometimes it's just that little they know what they're looking for, they just haven't seen it, or they don't know what they're looking for until they see it. Getting those personal recommendations really goes a long way. I mean, just think you're at a restaurant and someone says, "Hey, the cheeseburger is really good." You're more likely to pick the cheeseburger. So, I'll be the cheeseburger. Hey, whatever. I'll be the cheeseburger in this scenario.
Yeah.
So yeah, while I was unemployed, like the first month, when you still have savings, in a way, it's almost like a vacation. So do you plan on exploring some more of your hobbies and spending more time with your family, or are you going to just completely hit the ground running?
It's a little of a little bit of A, a little bit of B. So, and we can kind of go into a little bit of that, sort of like the financial side, the time management side. I'm really excited about the opportunity to get more time with my family. So I found out I was getting laid off on a Thursday, and then that Friday night, me and my family go camping. And we, no amount of being bummed out about the layoff can interfere with sitting around a campfire and drinking a beer with, my family, my best friends. Like it's not, nothing can ruin that. So I've taken a lot of opportunities to spend more time. My parents help out a lot with watching our son. I've been kind of being the stay-at-home dad, spending more time, still spending time with the grandparents too, but spending more time, I think, learning how to be a better dad, how to take care of a child even better. I think a lot of times when you're put in a situation that is a little bit out of your comfort zone, kind of going back to what we were saying before, I have the potential to be a great dad who's really good at taking care of their son, all the little things, changing the diapers, knowing when they need food. It's honestly not something that comes natural to me, and I do find it kind of difficult, but I'm jumping into the deep end and learning. And as we do it week after week, I'm getting better and better. And I find we're connecting more and seeing the little things, the little, he's 11 months old. So these little growth opportunities, he's lifting himself up, he's holding a toy, little things like that. I'm putting in more work and I feel like I'm getting so much out of it. So I'm taking that opportunity. The financial side is definitely, I don't need to get like too religious or anything like that, but I know you guys are both kind of religious people. I'm Jewish, but I'm religious in my own way. So, I think one thing that you guys might kind of relate to is, in the Torah, in the beginning of the Bible, in the book of Genesis, there's a whole story about Joseph interpreting the dreams of the Pharaoh. There's a lot of talk about the 7 good ears of corn, 7 bad ears of corn, the 7 sick cows, and the 7 healthy cows. I don't remember the exact page or what it is. Anyways, you can look it up later. But I've always really took that to heart and interpreted that as, when things are good, when you got the good ears of corn, the healthy cows, you got to put some money aside. You got to, kind of stay humble, live below your means. Then when there's sick cows, the sick corn, you can interpret that as you got a really good job and then you get laid off and the cows get sick. You pull from the grain and the beef that you had stored up. So I've taken that, interpret that as, in my career, it seems like I'm either getting paid pretty well or I'm not getting paid at all. So I've had a lot of opportunities to practice this and basically just sock money aside, put money into different investments, keep my expenses below my income. So that way, when I do get hit with these kinds of hardships, I have a little bit more flexibility. So, I feel like I'm very thankful, and, I think this is good choices, but I also think it's luck, and I'm not taking full credit for being in the situation I am. but I am lucky enough that I do have a little bit of an opportunity to be flexible with how I manage my job search. I took about a month or so. So mid-September I got cut. Mid-October is when mid to late October, I really started hitting the ground rolling. One thing that a previous guest on your show had said is that this job market looks much different than previous job markets. Talk about, and this is my personal experience, 2 or 3 years ago, I was getting calls and emails from recruiters, headhunters, weekly, daily sometimes. Now, it's just, that's not even a thing. So I'm being realistic.
Yeah, I experienced the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that's everybody. It's not just tech, it's not just HR, it's not just in engineering. I think that's everybody across the board nowadays. It's kind of, economic and these macro factors. So I'm being realistic about it. I'm cutting expenses where I need to cut, prioritizing what I need to prioritize. But I'm also seeing this as an opportunity to be humble and kind of separate like the wheat from the chaff, like what are expenses that are really important, that are actually enhancing my life or required for my family, and what are things that are, kind of frivolous and things that I just don't, I can just cut it without having any, I could just cut this expense without having any real downside. So it's a good opportunity. Another thing too is that I kind of, okay, so I have a weird way of thinking about a lot of about a lot of things, but I like to break my life down into a couple different categories. I'll just list those off. So essentially, I think, and this is me, everyone can have their own framework of their own life. Different things can be important to different people. But if I had to break down the focus of my life, it would essentially be into 5 different categories. So my physical health, my mental well-being, my financial well-being, advancement. So, just increasing whatever that is to you, school, job, promotion, just advancing yourself, and relationships. And I think balancing all of those factors, like how to have the best, most satisfying life, it comes down to how do you balance those different factors. So, okay, kind of looking at that, my financial well-being definitely took a hit with this layoff. The advancement category, I was on a career track. I got promoted earlier in the year. Now I'm laid off. So the advancement kind of took a little bit of a hit. But I'm using this time to really improve my relationships, take on more of the housework and the chores around the house. That makes things easier for my wife. That increases the quality of my household experience. Time with my son, I'm building these memories. Mental health, there's some things like, some video games I wanted to play that I've been kind of too busy for. I just knocked those out, just having a little bit more relaxation time. And then with the physical health side of things, so I'm training for this ultra marathon, the Cocodona 250. It is a incredibly intense experience, but I'm having a lot more opportunity to focus on, the training, different things like that. It's kind of tough because we got to buy or rent Airbnbs, and there's some big expenses associated with this race. But just getting out in the middle of the day, just in the middle of a Wednesday, going and running trails. I love that. It's a bummer about the job, but hey, I'm getting to see these beautiful mountains. And also too, it's not just what can I do and about myself. I kind of touched a little bit on, the relationship side of things. So before the ultra marathon I'm training for in a couple weeks is the Tucson Marathon down here in Tucson. I'm helping coach and train my wife to run her first marathon. And that, is a really incredible experience. It's one thing to do something for myself. It's another thing to watch another person, grow and go from thinking, I can't do something, to thinking, wow, I'm about to do something. And just see somebody build that confidence in themselves and just to develop right before your eyes. I'm getting to spend a lot more time kind of thinking and balancing and considering from the coaching side of things, how to help her, run her marathon, figure out the gear, the shoes, the training, how many miles, conditions, the deeper you go, it's a very, very deep rabbit hole with the running stuff. But yeah, I mean, so overall, I mean, my life is still very satisfying. Even if some categories take a hit, I just focus on other categories, and I overall achieve the same level of satisfaction.
Yeah, that's an amazing point that you're not boiling your life down to simply finances, which in America a lot of us do because in a capitalist society, that's kind of like the key metric where we often judge each other by. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of richness outside of money. So, for example, you're able to spend time with your son, and you can't ever get those experience. You can't get those years back. So those experiences that you're having with your son, you can always make more money, but you're not going to always be able to, watch him grow up like that.
Right, exactly. And I've seen this, people in this situation. I think it's, being in the situation myself, I think it's easy to fall into that kind of dark place, especially if you haven't prepared ahead of time and you find yourself facing a financial cliff. You've been living paycheck to paycheck. And I think that's people at all levels of income. So it has nothing to do with tech workers or anything like that. It's like I've had some conversations with people who are making more than me and really like live in very paycheck to paycheck. And it kind of makes me stressed out on their behalf. But yeah, I could see how you could get into this woe is me kind of situation. And again, not to disparage anybody who's feeling bad about their situation. We're all in different situations. I have had my own moments of feeling bad about getting laid off. Definitely some tough emotions about it, but feeling like I'm done, I'm defeated, I'm down and out versus thinking, okay, lose the battle, I can still win the war. Yeah, I think that's kind of just the focusing on the mental side of things. And sometimes it means you gotta just white knuckle your way through it. I think compartmentalization is a really important factor. You got a bill coming up, you don't have any income, you might just need to shut that out. I mean, you still have to pay the bill, of course, but feeling the stress, feeling like it's hanging over my head, what am I gonna do? I'm in that same situation. January, I got to pay car insurance, life insurance, all these different things, pay my taxes next year. I always end up having to pay extra taxes. I should, I should really just like work with an accountant, but I have these expenses hanging over my head. I can't make them disappear. I could either stress about it or make a plan to deal with it and then focus on something else. So I'm choosing to just focus on something else instead of spiral and just get all kind of woe is me and think like the universe is against me.
Right. I think you're taking a really, really positive approach, positive stance on the whole, getting laid off. What do I do? Okay, now I have more time. I can spend that time with my son. And, it's kind of like Kevin saying, like those memories with your kid, you can't trade that. If you skip over it and you're working, you never get those moments back. So I think that's crucial.
Yeah. And, some things are more valuable than money, and you got to balance everything. If I keep this going, we're going to be homeless. So, at some point I got to start working somewhere doing something, but if I can take the time, then take the time. If I can focus on this, focus on this. I could focus on the bad things or the good things. Why wouldn't I focus on the good things?
Absolutely. So, we often talk about AI. How have you noticed AI affecting HR and just in hiring and employment in general?
I could see, so my biggest example or insight into how AI is being used in hiring, it's more to, I guess, give people in talent attraction more powerful tools to do their job more efficiently and maybe better. It's not replacing the job of talent attraction. It's kind of like, to make an analogy, it's like getting rid of screwdrivers and replacing them with power drills. So if you took all the people using screwdrivers, gave them a power drill, how many more screws could they screw? So I don't know, maybe that's kind of an abstract example, but so essentially, nowadays we're seeing a job gets posted on LinkedIn, hundreds of candidates apply within 2 days. A human being, it would be so difficult for a human being to personally review every single job application. And in my examples from when I used to be a recruiter, there is so much garbage that gets submitted. People who apply for jobs that are just completely wasting their own time and the recruiter's time. And so by that, I mean, you look at a job description, you get a gist of what they're looking for. Even if you don't meet that job description 100%, if you're in the ballpark, it's worth taking a shot. But if you are not even on the same, playing the same sport, don't waste your own time. Don't waste anyone else's time. So, for example, I used to recruit for senior software engineers. The job description would say 10 years experience. You need to have, expert level at this tool, this tool, this tool. And I got to tell you, there are so many job applications of people that have never done any software engineering in their life. And it's just if you've never been a software engineer, you've never gone to school for software engineering, you've never taken a certification course, you don't have a personal portfolio, then you have no business applying for a job as a senior software engineer. So what I'm seeing with the AI is essentially cutting out, or reducing the amount of focus on managing those kinds of things so that recruiters can focus more effectively and hiring managers can focus more effectively on the candidates that are actually a better fit for the job. And, I don't mean, I feel like I've said a bunch of stuff that's really going to piss off people on this episode, but, take anybody who's listening and feels offended by that, take that as feedback that you should use your time effectively and apply for jobs that you have the best chance of actually getting and you're actually a fit. Think about it from the recruiter's perspective and get yourself recruited. Be a good candidate. So, for example, an AI tool. So I've used an applicant tracking system called iCIMS very extensively. There's a lot of different ones. That's probably the one I'm most familiar with, but there's a lot that are similar. You can basically feed, and take this with a little grain of salt because I haven't used this tool in a year or two, but basically you feed a job description into the AI and it picks out the best candidates. Not necessarily who you should hire, but it kind of ranks them by relevancy or delivers a group of candidates and highlights them for being most relevant. So from a recruiter's perspective, you obviously want to look at those candidates. The people that have never touched software engineering, they have never done any coding, anything, those people are going to be on the bottom of the list. The AI is not telling recruiters, don't look at that resume. It's just saying, essentially, I don't think that they're a good fit for the job. You do with this information what you will. So I could see it being very good for the recruiters and the companies being more, obviously companies have to pay to get access to these AI tools, but they don't have to spend money on their employees going through the, kind of unnecessary application. So it's saving employees time. And then also too, I think, I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes from the candidate perspective, it could be frustrating because this is happening behind closed doors and you don't understand, I got rejected. I don't know why. I didn't get any feedback. You might be that person who's never coded a line of code in their life. They get rejected from a principal level software engineering position and they're just totally in the dark and don't know why they got rejected. I don't think that AI will solve that, but I think it will make things work a little bit more efficiently. The people that are the best fits will get selected and move through the process more effectively. AI's being used to schedule interviews, balancing all these different calendars, scheduling interviews. That's another thing where I've seen that be one of the biggest bottlenecks in the process. Is you take a person manually balancing 20 different calendars to find an 8-hour period of time to run this candidate through an interview, using AI to make those things easier. So essentially, yeah, it's like replacing the screwdriver with a power drill. So, and also too, from a landscape of the hiring and all that, I think that there is a concern that this will reduce, let's say, the number of recruiters that a company needs. I think every field is probably looking at that. Will AI eliminate software engineering jobs? Will it eliminate customer service jobs? I do think that we're seeing a little bit of a weird market factor where there's just less hiring. There's just lower demand. It's an employer's market. So no matter how many recruiters you have on staff, just across the board, we're seeing there's less hiring. So it's easy to say, oh, AI is taking my job, but it's also, what job? There's just less jobs. It's not that AI took your job. It's just there's just less hiring. That's why there's layoffs, we see this with talent attraction. If you think you're going to hire 500 employees and you change it and say, actually, we only need to hire 100 employees, that's 1/5 of the hiring. You need 1/5 of the talent attraction staff. That's just numbers. It's nothing personal. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of, people wanting to point fingers and, basically look for a scapegoat for why they're not working. And I think in some ways, like, AI is having an impact on that, but I don't think that AI is removing anybody from the workforce. I think, let's use talent attraction as kind of the example. If you have fewer recruiters because of AI, well, now you've got recruiters that have extensive experience on using AI tools and recruiting tools. They can become implementation consultants and implement the ATS at other companies. That's what I did immediately after being a recruiter. They could be project manager. They could be manager of a recruiting coordination department. So they're almost released from being needed to be a recruiter, and they've got the opportunity to leverage those skills into a different area in a different way. So maybe a recruiter will no longer be a recruiter, but a recruiter will still have the opportunity to leverage their skills and experience in the recruiting field in potentially an even better way for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. AI is a tool, and it allows you to bring value in a different way. Like, you could get stuck if you're defining yourself by a specific tool. For example, you only want to use a hammer to solve all your problems. Now you have this AI tool that's more powerful, and you don't want to give up your old tool. But if you look at your ability to bring value, you're just going to utilize these AI tools to bring increased value and save you time where normally you would have to do things manually and it would take a lot longer.
Yeah, exactly. And, I like to think about kind of the old American folktale of John Henry. You guys know that tool or the story? John Henry, the steam engine comes through the steam drill, and he challenges the steam drill to drill through a mountain. You guys know that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, spoiler alert for everybody: John Henry and the man-powered drill team versus the steam-powered steam drill. I think they essentially tie at the end, and then John Henry drops dead. And I think that could be a good metaphor for essentially, you might be able to just do it the old-fashioned way and manhandle your way through the situation, drill through the mountain, whatever it is. But the wheels of change, they're constantly turning, and we could either get on board with the drill team or with the steam drill, or do what we did and then drop dead because we insisted on doing it the old-fashioned way. And I don't know. I always rooted for John Henry, but the moral of the story still stands.
Absolutely. So yeah, can you tell us about some of the future technologies, or anything of that nature that has you excited? Anything that's popped out to you?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, there's, I don't know. I've almost been going, despite what I just said, I've almost been going back in time with my networking and things, sending people text messages and, oh my God, making a phone call. So I've been doing things a little bit of the old fashioned way, despite, what I just said about John Henry. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited. This is a little bit more behind the scenes HR technology kind of things, but the level of integration between the different tools, the way that we've kind of been stuck, and let's say from your perspective, my perspective, we've all been stuck in this run around, HR loopholes and hula hoops, you got to jump through all that kind of stuff. We're seeing more and more development and progress behind the scenes of APIs that integrate to these tools. So, like the ATS is almost like the skeleton of the recruiting software. And, you got the job posting tool, you got the resume screening tool, the CRM. I'm seeing just a lot of development behind the scenes, improving the APIs, improving the integration between these different tools to make it so that you just have the job application process is easier. I mean, even now, it's so much easier than it was 2 years ago. Yeah, you get some places where, kind of like the meme goes, you input your job and then you input your resume and then you need to retype everything. That happens a fraction of the way that used to happen. The resume parsing is getting so much better. Even on LinkedIn, the jobs that it recommends based on your profile are much more relevant than in the past. So I'm really excited about the development, how AI is being integrated. I don't have as much information about specifically like what the software engineers are doing to develop those things or what tools they're using. But from the HRIS perspective and from the user perspective and the candidate perspective, I'm really seeing a lot of advancement in that era.
Awesome. Brian, did you have any other questions?
No, not really. Just I think I really love your perspective. I think it's really positive the way you're looking at unemployment, the way you're looking at, you get to spend more time with your family. I think it's just, yeah, it's really important. And it's kind of like, God opens certain doors and closes other doors. So like, you just have to kind of like give yourself to the process and see where the chips fall.
Yeah. I mean, this is the time to be open-minded and welcoming to new opportunities, not holding on to the olden ways, with a closed fist. So yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So do you have like any say, for example, dream companies or companies that you would really like to work for?
Oh man, it's tough. I almost don't even want to say anything on this note because they say you should never meet your idols, you should never talk to your heroes or whatever. To a degree, sorry Blizzard and Microsoft, but I almost feel that way. I've almost been left feeling that way. So this is not to disparage Microsoft or anything. I'm just kind of calling this out. I can't even play the games that Blizzard makes because they use this software called Battle.net as kind of a launcher for the games. And my Battle.net account is tied to my work email. And I've requested multiple times to get my account switched back over to my personal Gmail account, and it hasn't happened yet. So as much as I value the experience, I do feel a little bit frustrated that I was laid off and I'm actually blocked from playing the games. And I think that it's probably, there's an administrative holdup behind the scenes. I don't think anybody's like targeting me or anything, but it kind of makes me feel like I almost want to, like, I almost don't want to work for something that if we ended up going our separate ways, I wouldn't be able to enjoy that anymore. And it's really disappointing because I do really on a personal level love the games that Blizzard makes, and they came out with a new one, an expansion for Diablo 4, and I'm really looking forward to playing it someday, eventually playing it. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would love to do something maybe in the running space. I think there's a lot of development, in the tech space with running that kind of goes behind the scenes. I think a lot of times people think about running like you just put on your Nikes and go for a cruise around the street. But with the GPS tracking, the mapping, there's so much stuff. Strava is a company that I really respect. I really love their product. That's a running, fitness, kind of personal training, not like personal trainer, but tool for your training. I use that one very heavily. Garmin is a company that they do a lot of work within the GPS space, not just for running, but other things as well. There's websites and tools for tracking race performance, race registration. So there's a lot of tech associated with that, and a lot of money too, a lot of investment. Registration websites that manage all the event details, they get a cut of the race registration. And there's big money. I mean, there's really big money in the running world. I think advancements in media production, advancements in product integration, promotion, marketing across the board. So I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I would love to get involved with something in the ultra running or outdoor space, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. It sounds like technology is bringing a lot of advancements to running, like you mentioned, especially in terms of maps and registration. Are there any other like things that you enjoy where you see them completely being transformed by advances in technology?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I've been getting into reading books more. I know, what a concept, reading books. But little things like that, I've been hearing about people writing books through AI, and I've thought about writing a book over the years, and maybe that's something that, I could see some advancement coming away that would make it easier to read, easier to write. I mean, like audiobooks is becoming much more prevalent. I think those are now being broadcast over Spotify. So, some kind of tool, audio language modeling, where you could just run a book through a tool and there you get a whole audio book. I would love to see something like that.
So yeah, we're near the top of the hour, but can you tell us a little bit about some of the more interesting books you've been reading?
Yeah, so I've been rereading a couple books I haven't read in a long, long time. So Congo and Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, both good books. I enjoy both those books. So Congo is a book that really inspires me to want to write a book, because it's, no offense, Ghost of Michael Crichton, but it's not even that great of a book. It's kind of like, it's fine, but it's not like great. Some of the things really don't hold up nowadays. Some of the, the characters and opinions expressed by the characters really are not like relevant nowadays. And it inspires me because this is a book that's like not that great. It's written very, directly. The language is very basic. The concepts, the plot, it doesn't even have like that good of a plot. The ending, like, it's just like whatever. But they make a movie out of it. The guys get so much publicity. It's so well received, so well enjoyed, and it is a fun ride. It's kind of like a roller coaster thriller ride. So that inspires me, because maybe I could go write a crappy book. It's not like I need to write the next, To Kill a Mockingbird in order to be successful. Just like, this guy just wrote a fun adventure of people doing some crazy stuff. And in my life, I've experienced a lot of weird stuff, a lot of crazy stuff. In my ultra training, I'm doing a lot of things like, going out to these, real backcountry places, like, caves and desert during heat waves, these weird canyons. Even just the other day, I'm going out for a run in this just like open desert range area, and I find an SD card on the floor, just out in the desert. No one is around, and I find this SD card. There's a mystery there. There's a story. Who's dropping an SD card in the middle of the desert? What's on it? The truth is, it was blank, unfortunately. But I'm just seeing so many kind of situations and weird things like that I think could become an interesting story if you play the what if game. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But that's really those Michael Crichton thriller books are kind of my main bread and butter lately.
Awesome. I know we're getting to the top of the hour, man. Did you want to leave our audience with any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, basically, just for anybody, whether you're laid off or just life has dealt you a little bit of a bad hand recently, anything like that, just think about what you want for your future, where you see yourself, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, whatever, and just take one step today, whatever you can do. So I wanted to be a runner running a marathon, an ultra marathon. I got to just put on my shoes and walk around the block. No one has ever run a marathon without putting on their shoes and walking around the block first. So anybody who's thinking like, I'm at a dead end, what do I do? The world is, against me. I'm just getting, closed doors left and right. Just do anything. Just put on your shoes and go for a walk around the block. Anything you could possibly do today, right now, to take any positive step, just go do it. So that's what I would like to leave people with.
Yeah, that's some great thoughts, and we know you'll fall back on your feet soon. And when you do, you'll have to come back and tell us about your new opportunity. But yeah, Brian, did you have any closing thoughts?
No, I mean, I'll just reiterate, I love your perspective. I love all of your positivity, the way you're looking to the future, in a very bright way. I think that's something that more people need to kind of zone in on. Like, what is their objectivity, their perspective? How are they looking at life? Are they looking at it from like a glass half full, glass half empty? How are you looking at life? And I just think your perspective on life is a really healthy one. So that's really all I'll say.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. I think an episode like this is much needed in a time when a lot of people are losing their jobs, and not necessarily to any fault of their own. It's just the economic climate. So, staying positive in a period of, a temporary period of a downturn it can be very difficult to do. So I think this episode will definitely help a lot of people who may be in a dark spot right now.
Yeah, I hope so. I would love that.
But yeah, man, we definitely appreciate you for coming on, man. We're going to have you back, man, especially once you've gotten into your new role and settled down.
Yeah. And, I love where you guys are going, taking the show. And I think there's really big things waiting for you.
Oh,
thanks, man. Yeah, we really appreciate you. And for sure, we'll get you back on, especially once you're, on a new role somewhere, working away.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in.